Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's Jeff with the Middle Age Masher. Just wanting to give you a long-term or a semi-long-term review of the 2020 Ibis Ripmo AF. This is a kind of a custom bike. I did do some things to modify it to make my own, but all in all, it's pretty much handles exactly how you would get it off the shelf. So stay tuned and let me give you a review of the componentry, what I like and what I dislike, the ride, what I like and what I dislike, and just my overall feeling on this Orange AF. Stay tuned. Let's start out with what makes this bike really magical. It's the suspension, to be quite honest with you. It's the design that Ibis chose to use on this Ripmo AF. I did decide to incorporate the DVO JDX with a 450-pound spring. This is super nice, coupled with that DW Link suspension and the DVO diamond fork up front, which is going to be getting a rebuild, so look for that video soon. This bike handles anything from pedally flowy stuff to downright chunk and bike parks really well. So looking at suspension on this bike, I definitely give it, if I had a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the best, this is a 9.5 easy. I don't think anything's perfect, but I've ridden many suspension designs, and well, the DW with the DVO, it's good in my book. Another thing about this bike that I really like, and I was kind of skeptical about, was the price point Shimano 4-piston, I guess you call them Deore, non-labeled Deore e-bike brakes. These things work just as well as the XT 4-pistons, the SLX, or marginally probably the Z's and or Saints. Same exact design, same fluid, same push of fluid, same caliper, although it's not probably quite as machined or nice. It did come with metallic pads, and I noticed they were starting to howl on me, so I went to a organic or ceramic pad, and they work great for me. And let's talk about drivetrain on this bike. This bike is upgraded with a Raceface Next SL 170mm carbon crankset with a Raceface bottom bracket, as well as a wolf tooth elliptical or oval 30-tooth chainring. It is running SRAM GX chain, SRAM GX rear derailleur or mech with a XO1 cassette. I thought it was a really nice little compromise combination. I don't feel so bad hitting that GX derailleur off of a rock as I did hitting my old XOs off a rock. One of the first things I did when I got this bike was swap out a wheel set that I had. And this bike did come with the Ibis, you know, the extra wide Ibis aluminum wheels with Ibis branded hubs. I decided to throw my i9 Enduro 305s off of my old Transition Smuggler onto this bike and install Cush Core. Now, the Cush Core I think is a game changer for me because I tend to pick bad lines. And by picking bad lines, it puts your rims and tires at risk. And for really the first time in my riding life, I'm getting to the point where I'm actually wearing tires out instead of blowing out sidewalls or just trashing them all together all over the place. Another item that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the dropper post that came stock on this bike. It is a bike yoke 185mm dropper that really gets the job done nice. It comes up really firm, and you know when it's up. And when I first got this dropper, I didn't really like it. It was a brand new bike, and with a brand new bike was brand new problems at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival 2020. Well, this post is really nice, but it is very sensitive as to cable pull for the dropper. So once I got that dialed, I've had no more issues with it. And actually, I've had a lot of friends tell me that they prefer this bike yoke as opposed to the Fox Transfer. It's been working perfect for 7 months now, and no problems. Moving on to the cockpit of this bike. This cockpit has worked really nice. I was a little skeptical about a couple of things. I'm used to having a more refined stem, like with the Raceface Effect or the i9 type stems. This is a 40mm stem, and it does have quite a bit of stack height on it, which makes me think that I could probably get a bigger rise handlebar. But these are the Ibis extra on the ends, 800 millimeter carbon bars, and I thought it would be just dumb of me not to at least give them a try, and they've really surprised me. I did opt to put DMR death grips on this bike. For grips, I've been through grips and I'm kind of a grip snob. I have some hand issues where my hands actually go numb on the trail, and I'm actually considering going with the Rev grips, but I'm not quite there yet on a $90 grip. All in all, this bike has been working flawlessly. Just to go through the Cockpit, DMR death grips, wolf tooth dropper, Shimano e-bike brakes, the Ibis extra on the ends carbon bar, a timber bell for warning those trail hikers, GX shifter pod, and that about sums it up. And now it's time for me to talk to you about a couple things I really don't like about this bike. And it is a mountain bike, so it's going to get rode. A couple things I don't like. You can probably notice that I have the SKS top cage mounted to the Ibis, and it also has mounts here for a water bottle. Well, once you put a side load cage in here with all these cables, you can't really get it in or out, and it kind of becomes unbearable. So the solution that I had was to put a top cage mount on it and use a short water bottle so it doesn't clank on the top tube, and it's worked perfect. And I do use a hydration pack, but in that hydration pack I use 2 water bottles and not a bladder. Another thing on this bike that I really think that they should have thought better through was a down tube protector. I know it's aluminum and I know it's not carbon, I know you can whack it around, but it would be nice to have a plastic protector here just for those times when you really need it. Another thing that really kind of is trivial, but I wish they would have done, is I wish they would have actually took the time to weld on tabs in order to put a bash guard on or a chain guide. Ibis really fell short in this aspect of it. Now it's aluminum and I understand it, you're just going to sacrifice the chain ring, but when you're sacrificing $50 chain rings when you don't have to, I really wish they would have put welded on tabs and not use a bottom bracket cup mount for that. And I've still had it challenging as to how to mount it with this race face setup. Another thing that I feel Ibis could have done a little bit better or differently was offer better chainstay protection or just overall frame protection in general. I do live in Arizona, Phoenix area, and it does get hot here, like hot as in like 110 to 115. And whatever adhesive they chose to use on these, it doesn't really quite cut the mustard. And you can see there's my attempt at putting it back on, as well as, sorry for the camera, the top one. One of the last things that I feel that Ibis fell short on was protecting the overall linkage. When you're going to be throwing on aggressive DHR, Assegai rear tires, and you live where it does get chunky and throw rocks, you can see that you do get some damage there in the linkage. And it's not huge, it's not a big deal, it's just something that I think when you're looking at a refined bike like this, that you would want to have something to protect that. If it was carbon, I'd be a lot more panicky, but being it's aluminum, I think I can live with that. So all in all, talking about the pros and cons of this bike, I think that the pros outweigh the cons any way you look at it. This is a bike that I'm going to keep for a while. Those of you that know me, I'm kind of notorious on changing bikes every 6 months or a year. And if I do anything on this bike, I'm going to be painting it or having it powder coated bass boat blue, just to make it a different Ibis than everybody else's Ripmo. So on a scale of 1 to 10 on pedaling, I would give this bike a 9. Descending, 9.5. Stability, a 9. Overall build quality, an 8.5. I think Ibis can refine just a couple little things on this to really make it great. And I know everybody talks about the Ibis Ripmo AF as being like a budget build, and at $3,000 for the NX build, the 2020. I know they may have changed it. It's still a little bit pricey when you come down to it. I know it's not a Yeti frame. Yeti frames are $3,000 to start with. Ibis frames are $3,000 to start with. But for the amount of money you dump into this bike, you would expect a little bit better protection, just on the paint and some of the miscellaneous little details that come along with it. But if I were to tell you or recommend buying this bike, I'd say go buy 10 of them. I bought 2, one for me, one for my lady. Hers is small, it's in the garage, it's just as rad as this one. And hey, go buy an Ibis, you'll love it.